Miami, Coach Belichick's dad, of course, that longtime coach at the Naval Academy. My next question, let's start back at this end again, Coach Baker. Remind us when you knew your playing days were over, and what combination of people or inspirations, mentors, or just details made you initially know that coaching football was going to be a part of your future?
Yeah, my mom was a school teacher growing up. Dad's a family business owner and farmer there in Texas, and so, but my dad was always our Little League coach growing up. And so I just remember growing up, all my friends to this day probably, they still call my dad coach, and he's never been a high school coach or a college coach. And so I knew early on that I wanted to. Then when I finished playing at Abilene Christian in 2013, just the impact that my college coaches, Chris Thompson and Ken Combs, had on me, it was something I knew I wanted to get into. I thought forever I'd always be a Texas high school football coach. They convinced me to be a grad assistant, and 11 years later, here we sit.
Go ahead, Coach Allen.
Yeah, right before I graduated, right before our pro day, I got hurt. And I didn't want to be that 30-year-old guy still trying to make it to the NFL. And luckily I got a call from my former coach and asked me to come to Delaware State to be their defensive back coach. I was 22 years old, full-time defensive back coach, and I thought I was rich, making $27,000.
Coach Belichick.
Yeah, I tried to get into college football after college, applied to 125 different schools for a graduate assistant position, but wasn't able to make that work out. So I went to work for the Baltimore Colts, $25 a week, that's what I thought all was worth. And then that's worked out okay.
I don't want to cut you off, Coach. Coach Diaz, assuming Coach Belichick was done, I'm not sure.
That's it.
Yeah, I was pretty self-aware growing up. Even in high school, while I was playing, I kind of knew that was going to come to an end. So I pivoted. I said, what's the next best thing to playing? I didn't know how you became a coach, so I decided that media would be it. So went to college, sports editor of the paper, had a TV show, the whole deal. I go work at ESPN. That's what I would do. I have your job, David.
You're good at it too.
I never told you this, but January of '97, we're in New Orleans, the Super Bowl. Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers are playing the upstart New England Patriots, coached by another Bill, Parcells. And I went into an interview with him. I had no duties. I was just sitting in the back of the room and watching that guy talk for 45 minutes. I said, I need to do that, and been doing that ever since.
Coach Dorn.
Yeah, I was on the pre-med track in college. Thought I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon, and my dream team, the Kansas City Chiefs doctor, ended up doing knee surgery on me right before my senior season. And I asked him if I could shadow him through the process, kind of like an internship. And so for 2 weeks prior to the surgery and 2 weeks after, this is how dumb I am. I got an epidural so I could stay awake and watch my own knee surgery. So I actually did that. And had both my knees done the same day. Okay, I had meniscus surgery on both knees. I watched the whole thing. And I thought that was pretty dang cool. And so I'm a little sick that way, I guess. But, you know, when it ended, John Brown, who's the team doc for the Chiefs, followed him around. He was gracious to me. And he was running from meeting to meeting. He had a 3-hour wait to get in and see him. He couldn't spend time with his patients. And so I met with him and just said, Doc, I love football. I love helping people. I'm pretty good at science. And this is what I wanted to do, but it doesn't seem like you have any relationships with your patients anymore. And he said, I can't. And so I left there pretty disheartened, went home, met with my high school counselor, who was a mentor of mine. And he said, just take a gap year. You don't have to go to med school right away. Come home, we'll pay you a couple bucks to help coach the football team. And so I did that and fell in love with coaching and was very fortunate after a year of high school coaching. My college coach hired me to be a GA, and at that time, it was pretty cool. It was me as a GA. Chris Ash, who's the D coordinator for Notre Dame, was the other GA on defense. Brendan Daly, the coach for Coach Belichick, who's the linebacker coach for the Chiefs now. Charlie Partridge, who's the D-line coach for the Colts. 4 GAs at Drake, and we all played together. And so my head coach got all 4 of us into the profession, and it's turned out really well. And I will say, sidebar, my mom wanted to beat the living, you know what, out of me. When I told her I'm not going to med school, I'm going to be a high school football coach.